Hello Year 11 and Year 11 parents. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, this achievement update following the issuing of Year 11 mock results. These are the materials we would have delivered had we been able to gather together this term together in the hall. This update is from myself, Mr Bew, Assistant Head Teacher for Key Stage 4, Mr Jukes, the Year 11 Coordinator, as well as updates from the Maths and English teams. We wanted to make sure that we provided some really clear tips and advice, as well as making sure that everyone understood the messages we'd be delivering to students so that you can emphasise those at home over the final few short months left of Year 11. This presentation is also to answer and try and preempt and answer questions that you may have about the revision process, about the best ways to think about these closing few months of GCSE courses. My first question, though, is to students. When you checked your results on EduLink, how did you feel? Curious? Maybe a sense of intrigue? Were you nervous? Was there a sense of anticipation? How did you feel after you opened your results? Were there surprises? Were there positive, pleasant surprises or unpleasant surprises? Was there shock? That could be positive shock. You've done better than you thought you would have done. Or is there shock that perhaps you've not achieved what you wanted to? When you looked at those mock exam results, did you feel disappointment? Or did you feel satisfied that the work that you put in led to a positive result that you were looking for? You might not be quite where you want to be yet, but you're on the pathway there. It's very likely that every single student in Year 11 reacted in slightly different ways. And indeed, in some subjects, you may feel that you've done really well and you've met with your expectations, with a little bit of progress still to come. And in other places, you may feel you've got significant work to do and significant work to push forward with. And at this stage of Year 11, although time is now starting to move forward as we're looking forward into the spring, there is still significant time and significant opportunities to put right any errors that you made in the mocks, to fill in any gaps in your knowledge so that ultimately you finish successful and you can open your results in August and be really proud. You have the positive shocks, a feeling of genuine satisfaction that you've achieved as well as you possibly can. Before we go any further, it's sometimes helpful just to emphasise the sorts of grades, the sorts of benchmarks that you need to achieve to get onto certain courses. Now, I can't offer every single possible permutation and combination of grades that could be achieved, but I just want to give a flavour of the kind of things students need to be looking at as core thresholds that they need to pass. For example, if students are thinking about university in the future, pass grade equivalents are a slightly shifting goalpost depending on the university ultimately applied for. For example, the University of the College of London says a grade C pass historically has now turned into a grade 5, whereas Manchester University sets the benchmark at a grade 4, so more like the old C grade. To train to be a teacher, for example, you will require a minimum of a grade 4 in English and Maths. And it's important to note that any students entering post-16 education of any kind, you will need to resit English and Maths if you don't get at least a grade 4. There had been plans published that this would shift to a grade 5, but it does seem that those plans have been put on hold now. But it's just worth being aware that that has historically been an idea that the government has talked about. Now, what can you go on to do with your grades? Well, given how well Year 11 are doing and the effort, the commitment that they've shown throughout their studies despite all of the disruption caused by the pandemic, we would be looking forward to welcoming a significant proportion of the year back to study at our sixth form. Our entry requirements are that we require 5 grades at grade 5 or a C and above, including English and Maths. There is some consideration, there is some flexibility given to grade 4s on an individual basis, and that would be then subject to an interview. There is a preference for what we would have used to refer to as grade B, but now referred to as grade 6 or above in the subjects you'd like to study at A level. And equally, your effort grades are important. The sixth form would want to see that you have a positive attitude, you take a mature approach, that you're keen to achieve and show that willingness, that desire to improve. However, if you wish to go to a college perhaps to study some vocational options, so New College, Swindon College, Abingdon or in Oxford, the entry requirements are different depending on which course you want to study. They do often require what are referred to as good passes at GCSE level, that is, achieving a grade 4 or better. These courses usually require you to have a pass grade, so a grade 1 or better in English or maths, but often require a grade 4 or better. And again, colleges are always looking for students who display really good effort levels, a desire and a willingness to do well as that hunger to improve. A third way forward is to apply for apprenticeships, and again, depending on the apprenticeship will depend on what the entry requirements are. These are becoming increasingly popular, and it's important that students are aware that these are competitive places where having the best possible grades makes you look better on paper than perhaps some people competing for the same apprenticeships. And finally, it may be that you're seeking to enter employment immediately at 16. And again, depending on the type of employment, depending on what the employer is looking for, will depend on the kind of qualifications and grades you will need to see. Again, very much like apprenticeships, employment for 16-year-olds tends to be highly competitive. And by achieving the best possible GCSE grades, you present yourself as more employable than other competing students. Now, it may be that hearing this talk about the future and what the future could look like is a little bit unsettling. It might be that you're not quite sure about the way forward. And if you do require more advice, you need to go and see Tina Belcher in her office in the library, breaks and lunch times, Monday to Thursday. Parents can also reach out to Tina by contacting reception directly, calling the school on 01367 240 375 and asking for Tina to call you back. So what is the mantra? What is it that we are saying to students? What are we saying to them again and again and again? What is the boiled down version of what they need to do? Well, Mr Jukes will talk about this a little bit more in his update in a moment, but it breaks down to three things: to be here, to have a really high level of attendance, to be committed, to give your best effort always, and to be the best version of yourself, so you're always positively contributing to the school and the school community around you. If you demonstrate those three B's, to be here, to be committed, to be the best version of you, that means that we would expect for all Year 11 students to be 2 grades better by the time you receive your grades in the summer. So that means that students, from their professional predictions now that teachers have given, have gained 2 grades. So it might be that you boost up 2 grades in maths, or you gain a grade in English and in history, 1 grade in each subject. And that's what we're really looking for students to do, to take their achievements at this point of Year 11 and then to say, I can be 2 grades better than where I am now. If we achieve that, if we do the 3 Bs, if we're being 2 grades better, we would be firmly confident that Year 11 students have fulfilled their potential, and that means that students can then make the next steps that they want to. Their first choices are what are going to be the way forward for them. So what do we expect in the year to come? Again, given all of the disruption over the course of the past 18 months, there have been some changes and updates. Now, I've written to all parents and students recently outlining these, but I wanted just to take a moment to state really clearly what we expect. The first key thing is that we currently expect exams to happen as in a normal year, that the year group will sit them on an exam timetable starting in the middle of May and then running all the way through to the end of June. We expect that timetable to look as normal and unchanged, and for that exam period to be a traditional period. It is really important that students assume and think through that exams are happening, and our planning and support for the year group is geared up towards supporting students for sitting exams as in a normal year. There have been changes to mitigate and give thought to the impact of disruption. Again, I've written to all students and parents about this, but just to stress the key points is that there will be reduced content in English literature, history and geography. That Ofqual and the exam boards will release topics to focus revision on the 7th of February. We will digest those and communicate those to you. And that there will be some limited modification to grade boundaries. If I was a Year 11 student, I would not be hoping that grade boundaries will significantly reduce this year. It does not look like there will be significant changes, and students need to be realistic and aware of that. There will just be some minor modifications to those boundaries. So it's really important that students are working really hard, and particularly after the 7th of February, are targeting their revision at those named topics. So whilst we expect exams to happen, we have also set out a plan which I wrote to students and parents about last week. And in the event of exams being cancelled, we will use assessments completed in the following assessment windows. We would use the October assessments, completed just before half term. We would use the mock exams that students have sat in December. The upcoming assessment window between the 7th of February and the 18th of February. We would use an assessment window between the 21st of March and the 1st of April. And in the unlikely event of exams being cancelled, we would run a 2-week assessment window between the 9th of May and the 20th of May. Now, this is ongoing assessment, and it's really important it's treated seriously, with revision being maintained throughout. We've planned these assessments so that students are ready for their exams when they reach them in May. That said, in the unlikely event of exams being cancelled, this is the evidence we would draw on to make judgments about the grades students achieve. So ultimately, it's really important to prepare for them well so that you understand your strengths and weaknesses, but also so that you have performed and demonstrated the best of your thinking and the best of your knowledge. Ultimately, and I will stress again, we expect exams to happen this year, and we are geared up and have that support in place around Year 11 and that plan in place around Year 11 so that they are well prepared and ready for that when we get there in May. I've mentioned these assessment windows again. I just want to give a little bit more detail about the window coming up in February. And we do want to add some additional preparation and support around English and Maths. And with this in mind, we will have English and Maths papers sat in full exam conditions during this window. So on Monday the 14th of February, the English Language Paper 1 and Maths Paper 1 will be sat. On Tuesday the 15th of February, we will have the English Literature Assessment on Lord of the Flies, a single question, and Maths Paper 2. And then finally, on Wednesday the 16th of February, students will sit Maths Paper 3. And during the course of the week commencing the 7th and the 14th of February, over that fortnight, there will then be in-class assessments in your other subjects. Again, the key role of assessment within this is to identify strengths so that you can build on those and maintain those, but is also so that you can identify gaps in your knowledge and look to address them through the rest of the year to come. That preparation, that approach is what will yield the best success by the time we reach May and the exam season commences properly. Before I hand over to Mr Jukes, I just want to stress a few final thoughts. No matter what your mock grades are today, when you look back at Edulink, whether it's what you wanted, whether it's not what you hoped for, it's not too late. There is still time to address those gaps in your knowledge, those areas for development, and to make sure that those strengths are well maintained into May. We're looking for students to be 2 grades better, but certainly looking at improving your grades by at least a grade. But the value of effort here is absolutely key and critical. Your grades won't magically go up. Your effort, Year 11, is absolutely critical and key within this. Your teachers, your parents will help you, but the hard work is done by you. And it's crucial all the time that you're active in this process, asking questions, working on your mind maps, your cue cards, your revision structures and the way forward. If you are throwing everything at these next few months, you will come out and you will ultimately meet with success.
Welcome to this short presentation looking at the mock exam results and also looking at what's going to happen over the next few months with the build up to the real exams during the summer. So you receive your mock results. Hopefully you've read them and you've digested them a little bit. A few questions I need to ask you now. Are they as you hoped? Are they as you expected? Could they have been better? If you opened your envelope in August, would you be happy with these results? If not, what are you going to do about it? If you are happy with those results, it's not a time to sit back and take it easy. It's about still pushing on through to the exams, working just as hard to see if you can match or even better improve those results. So there's a few things to think about over the next couple of days about the mock exams and how you're going to move forward in a positive way. In the end, we only regret the chances we didn't take. And what I don't want is for any year 11 in August to open their envelope, look at their results and look back and think, oh, could have worked harder, and have some regrets. I'd rather the students have the regrets now with their mocks than with their real things in August. And throughout the year, I've continued to talk to the students in assemblies and whenever I see them about the 3 Bs. So be here, so a high level of attendance. If students aren't in school, they're not going to be able to learn and access the curriculum as well. Be committed, best effort always aim for efforts 1s and 2s. And finally, be the best version of you. Don't worry about the person next to you. You work as hard as you can work and be the best version of yourself. Make every day count. We have 5 weeks and 1 day until half term. We have 11 weeks until the Easter holidays. We have 14 school weeks until the first GC exam starts, which is the 16th of April. We have 14 weeks, which is 5 days, which equals 70 school days left. And that equates to 350 lessons left. So there's still a little bit of time to go, but however, we still need to make every day count. There's enough time to make that difference and improve those grades you've just received. Don't give up now. You are so close to year 11. Following on to what I've just said, you never know how close you are. Never give up on your dreams. You know, going to those extra revision sessions, working that little bit harder, asking those questions in lesson, being active in lessons. All those little things are going to help you build your knowledge up and understanding. Looking at different revision strategies. You know, in the mock exam you may have used some revision strategies which didn't work very good for you. Try a different one and keep trying until you find the one what works for you, because the next one could be the one what works for you. So make sure you don't give up over these next few months. Keep pushing, you know, think about what you need to get to the next level in your education, be it apprenticeship, college, sixth form, whatever. What results do you need? Aim for them. So how can you improve? So if you're doing coursework controlled assessments, aim at least for your target grade, or possibly even above your target grade, to the highest possible. Remember, a target grade is a target grade. It's aspirational. You can achieve more than your target grade. It's not a ceiling, you know, it's a target. Take advice from your teacher, you know. They know better. You know, they've got a little bit more experience. So take advice from your teacher. You know, again, be in school as much as possible. Avoid being absent, holidays, etc. during term time. You're going to have a big, long time off in the summer. So, you know, that's what you're aiming for. Be completely focused in lessons. Make every lesson count. Start your revision now. Make sure you're using all opportunities in school. You know, revision sessions, over the next few months, lunchtimes, be active in these lessons, ask those questions. It doesn't matter how silly that question you may think is, it is valid to you. So ask that question if you're unsure. Make sure you're revising the right things. And again, the only way you're going to know what to be revising the right things is talk to your teachers. So make sure that happens. Ask. So we know what revision is. It's looking over previous stuff you've learnt. And it's tested. And you're tested on it, as you know. You've just done your mocks. But make sure you're finding a way what works best for you. Be an active learner in the lessons. Ask those questions. Use your friends in revision and things like that. Help one another. Find out what works for you. Make sure where you're revising at home is suitable for revision, so as least distractions as possible. So mobile phones, leave them downstairs. You can check your mobile phone when you have a break. You need to remove as many distractions as possible from your revision space. Make sure it's tidy. Make sure, again, like I said, you're undisturbed. Comfortable chair, table, what gives you enough room to put your materials, lay your materials out, whatever you're looking at. Good lighting, good adequate lighting. And make sure you've got your books, your school notes, your exam papers, your mark schemes, what you all need to help and prepare you for your upcoming exams. Pens, pencils, scrap pieces of paper as well. Make sure you've got all of these at hand so it makes it easier to revise. Organisation, being organised is the key. So planning your revision. Okay, you've just received your mock exam results and you've done really well. That does not mean that you stop working as hard. That means you continue to work as hard and you push on through, because you can potentially improve on those results. However, if you haven't done as well, okay, look at different exam strategies. Try different exam strategies. What's going to work potentially for you? The more you try, the more likely you're going to find a strategy what works for you. So don't give up. You're all so close to year 11 to you're doing really well. So just don't give up. Again, you need a revision timetable. Think about, obviously, your stronger subjects, your weaker subjects. Little and often is good at this point of time. Last minute cramming is not good. Start off revision 30 minutes a day, and then you can build up that to a few hours over the next couple of months as the exams get closer and closer. Remember, you need to reward yourself as well when you're revising. There's no point in sitting there for 2 hours reading solidly. You need to make sure you're building in breaks and you're rewarding yourself. Remember, during those break times, you can go and check your phone or whatever you need to do. But you need to reward yourself in those times when you're having a break from revising. Be kind to yourself. Think about the different strategies, what potentially works. The more strategies you try, the more likely you're going to find a strategy what works for you. And again, different strategies may work for different subject areas. But you're the only one who can find that out by actually trying those different strategies and see if they work for you. And finally, what I don't want to happen is you have any year 11 has any regrets in August when they open their exam. I don't want them to feel that when they open their exam and they look at the results thinking, I could have tried better. We don't want that. I want you to think you've done the best you can, you've been the best version of yourself, and you're prepared in absolutely the best possible way. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr Jukes, for that update and that summary. And as we finish for this evening, I'm just going to hand over to Miss Malik.
Okay, hi Year 11. I'm just going to run through with you some ways in which you can make progress and focus your revision in both English language and in English literature. And it should hopefully help you to make that positive progress when thinking about improving from your mock results that you gained. So the first thing that I'm going to go through with you is just a recap on your exam dates for both language and for literature. So for English language, you've actually got quite a bit of a gap between your first paper and your second paper. Paper 1, which focuses all on the reader, and that's very much your idea with the creative writing task that happens at the end of the text, and that is your fictional piece of writing. So that's where you analyse a story, a novel or a short story or something like that. That will happen on the 18th of May. And then your paper 2, which is much more focused on the writer, that was the one that you completed for your mock exam. That one where you have to respond to and analyse 2 different extracts, which are always going to be non-fiction. That one will happen on the 10th of June, okay? For English literature, remember that we dropped the power and conflict cluster of poems. So we are not doing, or you are not doing, an exam on that cluster. However, you are still studying and completing an exam on Lord of the Flies, Christmas Carol, Macbeth, and then unseen poetry as well. So for Lord of the Flies and A Christmas Carol, you will be responding to questions on those 2 texts on the 25th of May. And then you've got a little bit of a gap between that exam and your Macbeth unseen poetry exam, which will be happening on the 8th of June. Okay, so you've got quite a bit of a gap between them, between all of your papers actually, and it's only your English literature second paper and your paper 2 of language that are relatively close together. Okay, so it should give you plenty of time to focus your revision and to think about, one of those at a time. Okay, so what I'm going to run through with you, I'm just going to go through some key tips for how to make progress in the English language. And then I'm going to run through with you some tips for the exam for English literature, some ways in which you can revise. And I'm going to focus on one of those ways in a little bit more detail. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll have that clear idea of the sorts of things that you can do to make progress in both English language and English literature. So to begin with, for English language, make sure that you're using all of that feedback from previous mock exams. That might be feedback given to you personally. That might be feedback in terms of marks on particular questions. That could be feedback that your teacher is giving on a whole class level, okay? So whatever feedback it is, take it on board and start to think about how you can improve. You can see the marks that you got for each of your questions, and it might be that you notice that a particular question, your mark was considerably lower than the other questions within that paper, and that might be therefore the one that you want to focus on as you move forward. In terms of your things that you can be doing at home and in terms of your revision that you can be doing, it's really important to make sure that you are reading both a variety of fiction and also non-fiction texts. It really does make a difference. The students who are reading widely at home are going to be understanding text, understanding the way that they work much better than those students who are not reading widely. So do please make sure that you are doing that. It does count as revision. While you're reading, start to think about what the reader's reaction would be. What's your response to the text that you're looking at? And also, particularly with non-fiction, start thinking about, the writer in particular, start thinking about their purpose behind writing that piece of text. Why was it that they chose to write that newspaper article? Why was it that they chose to write the letter? What's their viewpoint behind that text? And that will, in particular, help you for paper 2 of your exam. Another way that you can support revision at home and make sure that you are revising and focus your revision is to make sure that you're practicing responding to individual questions. Now, sometimes that might be, pulling out full responses. Sometimes that might be planning. I would advise you to do a mixture of the two. Responding to full making full responses to questions is going to be really important to help support you with your understanding of the timings. It can sometimes be quite daunting when you're in the exam hall and you've got 10 minutes to answer a question, and you've got 10 minutes because your teacher has consistently told you that, question 2 should only take 10 minutes. It's really important to make sure that you are actually spending that amount of time on that question. And the more you practice it and the more you time yourself at spending 10 minutes on that question, the more easy it will be for you to understand how much you can write in that 10 minutes, and therefore when you then will need to move on to the next question. It's also in your actual exam really important to make sure that you attempt each question. Please do not leave any questions blank in your English language exam. Even just that attempt, writing down a couple of ideas that you might have come up with. It doesn't matter if they're wrong. The idea that you're coming up with ideas, the actual act of putting down some quotations will get you a couple of marks. So even if you're not quite sure that it's right, or even if you're really struggling with understanding what the question is actually asking for, writing something down that's linked to your understanding of what you think you know with the question will still get you a couple of marks. It's really important to make sure that you read and annotate the question and the source fully. The question is really important because obviously the more you do on that question, the more it is that you actually understand what it's actually asking for. You focus on what it's actually asking for. So if it's a language analysis question and it's asking you to focus on the party, you then know that all of your ideas have to be linked to the party. So it's really important to know what that question is asking you to do. For the writing section, if you struggle to think about, the sorts of things, how you should structure your work, the sort of things that you should be including in it, use a reading source to help you. That might be that the reading source has got lots of single word sentences and it reminds you to use those. It might be that there's a creative use of paragraphing and you can replicate that structure within your actual piece of writing. And finally, the bullet points are there to help you. So there's certain questions within your language paper that have bullet points on them. You can use those bullet points to help to support you in making progress. Okay, so that's all your tips for English language, some ideas for revision, and also obviously some ideas for your actual exam, making sure that you gain the maximum marks available to you. So next up, I'm going to go through the sorts of things that you should be doing in your exam, and then I'm going to talk you through some revision ideas. So in the exam, don't assume that the examiner knows what you're speaking about. And what I mean by that is just make sure that you're explaining all your ideas in detail. It's that explanation, that clarity of your understanding that you're getting across to the examiner that's going to help you to increase your marks. Secondly, it's really important to make sure that you're focusing on the whole text, not just the extract that you're given in front of you. And in fact, in the actual exam, you do lose marks quite considerably if you only focus on the extract. For the highest marks, you should be thinking about, the focus within the question and how that idea plays out in the text as a whole, and then start linking it back to the extract. So it should be that understanding of the text as a whole before you start kind of thinking about the extract. And I think that understanding will help you to gain as higher marks as you possibly can do. Next up, make sure that you're annotating the text and the question before you start planning out the structure of your response. So if the question is asking you about Lady Macbeth, make sure you understand that. Make sure you understand what specific they might be asking you about her. Does she change? How is she shown as a woman with power? Make sure that you understand those ideas clearly in terms of what the question is asking you before you start planning out your response. And please make sure that you plan. That makes a massive difference to the responses that are produced. Don't forget to explore the writer's methods. And that means considering what the writer, or how, the writer is presenting their ideas. What methods are they using? Are they using characterization? Are they focusing on a particular setting? Are there some interesting similes that we can be pulling out in terms of that's how that writer is presenting this particular idea? And then to go that step further, think about why the writer is using that particular method. Make sure that you're showing and you're demonstrating your understanding of context and how that understanding reflects your overall understanding of the text. But please don't bolt on information. You should be thinking about, okay, so your understanding of Shakespeare as a writer, your understanding of the time in which he was writing, that shouldn't just come at the end in a very short sentence. That should be weaved in throughout your response. And that's the best way to get the higher marks. For your unseen poetry question, you will have two parts to that question. Make sure you answer both parts to that, so don't miss that one out. That's really important to make sure you're aware of. And also, just for all of your responses in total, don't just repeat the narrative. Don't just tell the examiner what happens in the text. Make sure you focus on that question. The question is talking to you about Lady Macbeth. Don't just tell us what Lady Macbeth does. Tell us what the effect of those ideas are, the language that she uses, the sort of things that she's doing within that text, and that will help you to again push on your marks that bit further. Demonstrate everything that you know. Okay, so those are some tips for your actual exam. And then next up, some ways in which you can revise at home. So this is a little bit easier for English literature than it is for English language. There's lots of things that you can watch. There's lots of things that you can use in terms of revision guides that are going to really help you with building up your knowledge and your understanding of the text that you have studied. So some good ways to do it is to read through some of the notes that you make in lesson, plan some answers for some questions from past papers. You can access past papers on the internet, and they will be ones that we won't be using for mock exams and won't necessarily be using for assessments. So they're good ones to get started with in terms of just planning out some understanding, or your understanding, about those past papers. Watch Mr Bew videos. There are plenty of those on YouTube. You just have to type Mr Brust's name in and you'll come up with a series of videos. There are some really good ones for Macbeth. He's also done a range of videos for Christmas Carol as well. So please have a look at those. Use revision guides, create your own resources, your own revision resources from revision guides. They can be really handy to use. And finally, watch Masalit videos. Now, some of you will be aware of this. Some of you might not be aware of Masalit. So I'm just going to show you what Masalit is slightly, just give you a bit of information about it, and then just show you how you can go about creating your account and then using it regularly for revision. So Masalit is a site that is focused all around your understanding and building up your understanding of text. And how it does it is focuses on some lectures. Okay, so a lot of the information that's given to you is lecture form, and it will really enhance your understanding. If you're looking for higher marks, it's a fantastic tool to support your understanding of wider ideas and not just things you're taught about in lesson, but zooming out. Some of the ideas in Masalit are sometimes used, for university lectures, so they can be really pushing your knowledge and pushing your understanding on quite considerably. The address that you go on is on the screen in front of you. So it's www.masalit.io. So please make sure that you are using that. And how you go about accessing Masalit and logging in and signing up. When you go on your first page, you will have something similar to what I've got on the screen here. So if you click on the top right-hand button that says sign up, and then you will get the option to create an account. The school obviously is Farringdon Community College. We do have an account on here, so you will be able to find your school within there. You type your first name in, your last name in, and then your school email address. And it will prompt you and remind you about how that email address comes across. It's student.farringdonlearningtrust.org. So it's just making sure that you're using that. And then you create your password, you sign up, and it's as easy as that. And you then have access to so many different lectures for Christmas Carol, for Macbeth. Use those. They're going to be supporting your understanding of those texts. It can be a nice change from revision. Doing the same sort of revision all the way through is often not helpful. So trying to think about numerous ways that you can revise your work, revise your text is really important. Using Mr Bew videos, watching Masalit videos, they can be a useful method of supporting your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you to Miss Malik for that update as well. And now a short update from Mr Rutherford about how to prepare for GCSE Maths and the approaches that you need to take as we move through this part of the year.
So if you are a student, then you have just got your mock exam results and it might not have gone quite as well as planned. You might be really happy with what you've just done. I'd like to just offer a little reassurance initially that I'd like you to treat the mock exams as much as a learning exercise as an assessment exercise. You've not done as many exams in exam conditions as previous years, so it's perfectly natural that you found the experience a little bit stressful. So moving forwards, I'm going to spend a little time now talking you through how you can best prepare, how you can best revise for maths, and I'm going to be talking your parents through what they can do to help you, regardless of how good they feel they are at maths. So if you are a parent and you feel that maths isn't your strong point, you can still help your child. Okay, you can still check that they are following key tips. So 3 papers, the dates are on the slide there, either side of half term. There will be over a week between paper 1 and paper 2 and just under a week between paper 2 and paper 3. So it's not quite as crammed in as the mock exams. The first thing I'll say regarding revision is the best way to learn maths is to do maths. Lots of practice is key. Okay, when you're using past papers, be mindful grade boundaries can and do change. It's still a relatively new specification. So if you are sat working through a past paper and you're worried that you're not getting as many marks as you have in a previous one, or if you go into the exams in February and you feel like that's not going quite as well, don't read too much into it. Keep doing the best that you can all the way through the paper. Grade boundaries can and will change. So students, when you answer past paper questions, or any questions for that matter, try to follow the same advice as when sitting an exam. So attempt all questions, however difficult they appear. Method marks will be crucial. You might well forget how to do something in an exam. If you forget how to do trigonometry, then you're going to possibly lose 3 marks, 4 marks on a paper. You will lose far more marks than that if you're not attempting all the questions. Okay, you could be talking 10, 15 marks that you could get from attempting questions and getting 1 or 2 marks on 4 marks questions. And parents, that's something that you can be encouraging your children to do if they come to you with past papers, or if you're in the room when they're revising. Okay, you don't need to be able to do maths to even the level that your child can to be able to help with that and to check that they're doing this. Read the questions at least twice before attempting it. Underline keywords and sentences. Show all stages of your working out. More marks are also lost on not showing working than they are on any specific topic. When you finish the question, read the question a final time. Okay, and then check your answer again. Make sure you have done exactly what the question is asking you to do. If we can practice doing that when we are revising, when we are doing past paper questions, then we are more likely to be doing it, or we're more likely to be comfortable doing it when we're working under exam conditions. So here's an example of an exam question, just to illustrate this. So this is quite a wordy question. This question appeared in your mock exam. It was on both the higher and the foundation paper. So it says there are 60 people in the choir. Half of the people in the choir are women. The number of women in the choir is 3 times the number of men in the choir. The rest of the people in the choir are children. The number of children in the choir to the number of men in the choir is n to 1 as a ratio. Work out the value of n. You must show how you got your answer. Wow, lots and lots of words there. So let's just go back and highlight some of the key points. Okay, so I would like students to be practicing this when they are revising as well as when they are actually in the exam. So 60 people in a choir, that's significant. So I'm going to highlight it or underline it. Half of the people in the choir are women. The number of the women in the choir is 3 times the number of men. Okay, and the rest are children. So let's see what we can work out. So 60 people in the choir, half of them are women. So the number of women, we are going to do 60 divided by 2, which is 30. So far, we haven't done loads and loads on this question, but we have started a really tricky looking question. Okay, the number of women in the choir is 3 times the number of men in the choir, so we can now work out the number of men. So we are going to do 30 divided by 3, which is 10. I've not looked at ratio at all yet. Okay, I have not dealt with this algebra, this n in the ratio, but by doing that amount of work, I will have got 1 mark. Okay, that mark could be invaluable, so practice starting these questions when you're revising. It will come more naturally when you get to the exam. The number of children, the rest of the people in the choir are children. So far, we've got 30 plus 10, which is 40 adults. So the number of children, you'll have to forgive my handwriting on this graphics tablet, the number of children is going to be 60 take away 40, which is not a difficult calculation for anybody. 20. Now you might be tempted here thinking, oh yeah, I know exactly how the choir is set up, I know exactly all of the numbers, I must have answered the question, let's move on to the next one while I'm on a roll. Let's go back and reread the question again. Have we answered the question? No, we haven't. We've got this bit about algebra in there. Okay, so we're looking at the number of children in the choir to the number of men in the choir. So as a ratio, that's going to be 20 children to 10 adults. Okay, getting that far now, putting that into a ratio, gets the second mark in the question. To get the final mark, actually, we simplify the ratio. 20 to 10 simplifies to 2 to 1. Okay, so n equals 2. We have showed the examiner clearly what we are doing. Okay, this line here, you must show how you got your answer. It would always be highly recommended that you show all of your working out to get the method marks. In this case, if you wrote down n equals 2 without showing any method, because that's written in the question, you would not get any marks. So it's really, really important we show all of our working out. I've not written lots and lots of words. I've just shown clearly mathematically what I have done, and I will get credit from that from the examiner. So, once you identify an area of difficulty, act on it. And I've put some websites or resources up there that will help you. The VLE Maths Watch, you are probably, or mathswatch.com, you're probably all as students familiar with. You'll have been using that. Teachers will have set homework on that for many years. The videos on there are really good. The interactive questions are really good. If you don't know your login, please speak to your maths teacher. Okay. Another website that's really good for past papers is mrbartonmaths.com. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time going through the Pixel Maths app and the Corbett Maths website. So the Pixel Maths app, you have hopefully had, or you are about to have, an introduction to that from your class teacher. So you'll be given a login. Okay, so you put your login and your user, your password in there. Then, after you click login, you'll be faced with this screen. So in lessons, you will input the data from your mock exams, and this website will very cleverly, or this app will very cleverly identify areas that you need to target during your revision. So you go to the same place that you went to when you entered your data, so you would go to the paper QLA. When you click that, you will be faced with this option. Now remember, you are doing the Edexcel exams. When you click Edexcel, you get this. Now, there is a little search at the top. There's thousands of papers on here, okay, and Pixel call them all lots of different things. The mock exams that you did, you can find by searching November 2019. Just pop that in here and scroll down. And the mock exams that you did, they've codenamed Wave 5B. So you will have done Wave 5B, November 2019. If your foundations, it will be papers 1F, 2F, and 3F. Higher tier students, 1H, 2H, and 3H. You should have already seen this, and you will have entered your data by clicking here. Now there's a few functions on this. The report option. So if you want to report based on your performance in paper 1, you can click here, and that will give you a list of topics that you did well on and a list of topics that you should focus your revision on based on your mock exam, and it will start with the ones that are most achievable. If you click on worksheet, here it will generate questions that you can print. The most useful thing, though, in my opinion on this, is the take a test option. If you click take a test, it will give you questions based on areas that the app has identified that you need to improve on. Okay, so you can answer those questions if I just highlight them. So you've got these questions here, and once you've answered them, you can click on Mark It, and it will tell you how well you did. Now, if you didn't do particularly well, or if you're looking at the questions and think, yeah, I need a bit of help on that, you can click on Video and watch a video on how to do it, or you can click on PowerPoint, which gives you a PowerPoint that you can go through some teaching slides on. Okay, if you use the video, it might be a good idea to have your revision cards ready. Make notes on your revision cards. Pause the video. When it gives you an example, pause it, attempt it, see the answer. So taking notes, producing revision cards is great, but also make sure that you are trying questions as you go along, because the best way to learn maths is to do maths. If you are doing revision cards, I do recommend that you use examples when you are writing them as well. Excuse me. Okay, so you've identified areas that you need to work on. Okay, and if you would like more past paper style practice on it, I would highly recommend the Corbett Maths website. And when you're on this website, if you go to the videos and worksheets section, there are hundreds of videos to help you. Okay, so you've got more videos, a different voice there. If you click on videos and worksheets, now I've scrolled down a little bit here. So we've got averages here. As you can see, all of the answers are on here as well. But if you wanted to do a bit of extra averages practice, so mean from a frequency table, for example, just here, we click practice questions, and it generates a booklet full of past paper style questions on averages. It also links to all the videos that are relevant to the past paper style questions you're doing. So that is a really valuable resource. Okay. So those are the resources again. You got your videos and online resources at MathsWatch. Mr Barton Maths is very, very good for past papers. Make sure you're clicking Edexcel. The Pixel Maths app is our go-to resource at the moment for analysing your performance in the recent mock. And you have also got exam style questions, worksheets and videos at corbettmaths.com. I'm going to re-emphasise as well, I'd like you to make sure that you are treating any opportunity that you are given to do a exam in exam conditions. Please treat it as a learning experience as well as an assessment exercise. Okay, and please try not to panic, and hopefully if you show all of your work in, make sure you're attempting every single question. You're going to go ahead and you're going to get all of the marks that you deserve. So thank you for listening to this part of the presentation, and I wish you good luck moving forwards. Good luck.
Thank you very much to Mr Rutherford for that update about how best to prepare and revise for GCSE Maths. So we come into the final part of this video. So questions, support and advice. As we always say, please make contact with your tutor as the first port of call. Your tutor is that gateway into school to make sure that questions get answered. Equally, please do contact myself or Mr Jukes if you've got any questions moving forward. And really walking away from watching this video today is we look forward to working with parents and students so that all students can be here, be committed and being the best versions of themselves, so that ultimately every single student leaves and finishes at the end of year 11, opens results in August and can be really proud of themselves, knowing they've done everything they possibly can to achieve as well as possible.